As we're wont to say, the Babylon Bee is just foreshadowing. In 2021, the Babylon Bee penned the story, U.S. military introduces gender-neutral bomb, in keeping with the times, to make it LGBTQIA two-spirit plus compliant. Well, Biden-Harris Department of Energy official calls for queering nuclear weapons as part of radical DEI agenda. The administration announced the appointment of Sneha Nair, special assistant at the National Nuclear Security Administration, in keeping with the likes of Sam Britton, dearly departed from the nuclear waste sector of this regime.
Designer luggage stealer, yes.
Nair believes eradicating white supremacy in the nuclear field, as well as, quote, queering nuclear weapons, unquote, is an important part of DEI. Quoting her, finally, queer theory informs the struggle for nuclear justice and disarmament. Queer theory helps to shift the perception of nuclear weapons as instruments of security by telling the hidden stories of displacement, illness, and trauma caused by their production and testing. Queering nuclear weapons is, quote, essential for creating effective nuclear policy, end quote. Okay. And you wonder why things like Abbey Gate happened as we're on the 3-year anniversary of the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. Oh, by the way, over the weekend, Hegseth on Fox and Friends spoke to a Gold Star mom, Kelly Barnett, who lost her son, Staff Sergeant Darren Hoover, in Afghanistan during that withdrawal, Abbey Gate, when the bombing occurred. Here's what Kelly Barnett said about the interaction her family has had, Gold Star family, has had with the regime.
Biden and Harris, no, of course they have not. They want this swept under the rug. They want us to go away. Unfortunately for them, we're not going away. We do know that, Milley has reached out to us, and we are in the talks with him to get more information and to see what more we can get from him. But as far as the Biden administration, no, they haven't, and they won't.
Milley, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, is now in contact with them. It's noted he is now in contact with them that he's out of the administration. Since he retired, he's in contact with them. When he was in the administration, he was part of the wall of silence, too. Because, of course, covering their asses is what's most important. For more on this and many other topics, Stephen Bucci served America for 3 decades as Army Special Forces officer and top Pentagon official, now a visiting fellow in the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen, thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's great to be back on the show. Thank you for having me.
So your message to Kathy Barnett and other Gold Star moms and dads on this 3rd anniversary of the Abbey Gate catastrophe?
Well, my personal message to them is that we're not going to forget what happened, and they shouldn't either, and that we would be proud to stand with them against this lack of communication, lack of transparency over something that should be 100% transparent. We're not supposed to hide when our service members lose their lives in serving this country. There needs to be truth found out as to why that happens, because unlike some of our enemies in the past, the Soviet Union, people like that, we're supposed to tell our citizens the truth when we screw something up. And unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be the case here. And it's distressing to see it. There's still, it's to say we still haven't gotten the truth from Benghazi, or at least not the truth from the government. So this habit of these folks of doing these things, okay, they're the leaders. They get to make the decisions, but decisions have consequences. If the consequences are bad, leaders, you are supposed to take responsibility for it.
Yeah, we see the same thing happening. We see the same thing happening now with Secret Service. We had Susan Crabtree from RealClearPolitics.com on the show last week. She was ahead of the learning curve, saying, here's what's going to happen. They're going to suspend some Secret Service agents on the ground in the Pittsburgh office and essentially cauterize the wound and insulate the leadership in D.C. from any consequences. And that's exactly what was announced. 5 U.S. Secret Service officials in Pennsylvania are on administrative duty. They're still working, but not allowed to be involved in anything operational. So this is the way they can pantomime accountability while protecting themselves. I'm talking about the leadership.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. That I think we've talked about it before. Those campaign stops are designated national security special events. That is a term of art, a term of law, really, that then gives the Secret Service complete authority to manage the security for that particular event. That, more commonly it's things like the inauguration, the Super Bowl, anything where there's going to be lots and lots of people. In this case, because there's a former president and in the same body, the candidate for one of the 2 major parties at this event. And for the Secret Service say, well, it was the local police who had that part of it. No, the Secret Service owns all of this, and they can tell those people to do anything they want. They can, if they request assets from the United States Army, those people, they could send a 4-star general there. They're still working for the special agent in charge of that event from the Secret Service. So therefore, if they have that kind of uncompromising authority, they should have uncompromised responsibility, and that's not what we're seeing.
General, speaking of Joint Chiefs of Staff, the chairman now, General Charles Brown, was in Israel trying to participate, I guess, or facilitate ceasefire negotiations. That has not gone anywhere. What's your handle on the state of the effort to eradicate Hamas, number one, the engagement of other Iranian proxies like Hezbollah, and the prospect of war between Israel and Iran?
Well, first of all, the focus should be on trying to get the hostages back. Not get Israeli hostages. There's American citizens there. We need to try and get these people back. However, I don't think if you ask the American negotiators, if the part of this is the eradication of Hamas, they would say, "Oh, no, that's not our goal." And I don't think it is. It is Israel's goal, and that it's the right goal. But the American negotiators are, that's not what they're doing. They're doing their best to avoid the eradication of Hamas as much as they can, and it's totally involved with pressuring Israel to make concessions to Hamas rather than allowing Israel to do what it has finally concluded it must do to protect its citizens, which is get rid of the radical leadership of Hamas. Until that happens, we're not going to have peace there. So that's where they need to go. It's not going that way. Hamas are the ones screwing it up because the Americans keep sending signals that they're going to continue to beat up Israel until Israel makes concessions to Hamas. So Hamas has absolutely no motivation whatsoever to make concessions to Israel, like giving up the hostages, which if they did, Israel would probably back off what they're doing inside Gaza and probably continue to put pressure on getting individual murderous terrorists that are in the Hamas leadership off the game board. But nobody in America, not nobody in America seems interested in doing it. There's a bunch of us that seem interested in doing that. Unfortunately, none of us are working for the White House right now.
Another example of seeming incompetence from another alphabet soup agency that has some connection to our national security, that would be NASA. And these astronauts that are stranded at the space station because the Boeing Streamliner can't re-enter the atmosphere for whatever mechanical reason. And so now it's Elon Musk to the rescue, but it's Elon Musk to the rescue, I guess, sometime in February, according to the reporting.
It was supposed to be an 8-day mission, and now it's
So here we have. I mean, is this another example, as I sort of intimated, of sort of the general lack of competence at one of our more sensitive government agencies?
Yeah, look, there's a lot of people who think, why are we wasting the money on doing all this stuff at NASA? But to be honest with you, one of the major things used to be that it was such a shining example of the leadership of American technology and science in the world, and now, not so much. It's really a shame that we're at the point now where we've got to go, okay, who can rescue us and get us out of this horrific situation we're in, because we got people stranded up there now. Another couple of months before they can get them down. Thank goodness there isn't some sort of medical issue going on up there, or something like that. It is a symbol of the incompetence. This, if you talk about trying to queer things, when you put DEI and other woke concepts to the forefront, it doesn't produce excellence. It produces, at best, mediocrity, and in some cases, complete lack of competence. And that's what we're seeing here. And geez, now we're going to do that with our nuclear weapons. Doesn't that make a lot of sense?
And then if Elon Musk ever decides to follow Pavel Durov over to France, he'll be arrested. At least that's the prospect, or that's the perspective of the EU minister that sent a warning shot across Musk's bow last week. And now we have an actual arrest. The CEO of Telegram, Pavel Durov, arrested on crimes that he is complicit in any crimes planned or committed on his platform, which is a unbelievably broad legal standard. It would be unconstitutional in this country, but he's not in this country. He's in France. Durov had sat down for an interview with Tucker Carlson not so long ago, and listen to what he said about his interactions with both political parties in America.
Have you come under pressure from other governments to accommodate their demands?
Well, of course. Telegram is a large platform.
Can you give us an example of a request that you thought crossed into censorship and spying?
I would say a very funny story related to your home country. After the events of January the 6th, we received a letter from congressmen of the Democratic side. They requested that we would share all the data we had in relation to what they called this uprising. And we checked it with our lawyers, and they said, you better ignore it. But the letter seemed very serious. The letter said, if you fail to comply with this request, you will be in violation with the U.S. Constitution or something.
So they wanted data on people who voted for the other guy in the election.
What's funny about that is 2 weeks after that letter, we got another letter from the Republican side. We read that if we give out any data according to the previous request, we would be in violation of the U.S. Constitution.
Well, so he's hearing from both parties, but at least one party is talking to him about maintaining his privacy standards and separation from the federal government not doing its bidding, while the other party, the Democrats, are talking about him folding into the state, a la the pressure they put on Twitter and other social media platforms that we know from the Twitter Files reporting. But I mean, so this is where things are at, and this is despite our Constitution, which is supposed to distinguish us from Western Europe. Despite that, we have some of the same things going on, maybe not at the same pace, but certainly the same path.
Yeah, there are people who think we should not just creep towards that European methodology, but we should gallop there and get there as soon as possible, because they think that's correct, that we should have that kind of control, that people shouldn't say anything that's hate speech. But now that's we used to have some arguments about what was hate speech on the fringes. But in the main, you knew, when someone said something blatantly racist or anti-Semitic, that was not appropriate. Now, it's defined by whatever I don't like or whatever I even mildly disagree with, that I can then declare that that's hate speech, and I should have the thought that the government is going to go out and enforce my definition of hate speech on everybody else. That is insanity, and that is not what our Constitution protects. It's not a self-definition for these things. It's supposed to be something defined by the court. How long did it take them to get to the idea that you couldn't say, fire in a crowded theater? That's the one they always use in school when they talk about this, because they used it in the court case, that's not protected speech. Well, that's a long way from saying, I disagree with you, Joe Biden or Donald Trump, therefore you should be silenced. But now that's the expectation people have, because they see it in other countries and say, well, the Europeans, they're very civilized people. We should agree with that.
Yeah,
but
Europeans.
then you have,
Europeans are very civilized people. They're arresting people like Pavel Durov the way that the Chinese communists put Jimmy Lai in prison. I mean, at some point, somebody in America needs to stand up not only for our Constitution protected right here, but also offer some commentary on what is happening in places like France and England, where they're arresting people for thought and speech crimes.
Yeah, we had that it was last week or the week before, a British police official saying that he felt he had the right, when people said things on the internet that violated UK law for speech control, that they should be able to indict them in England
and extradite.
Request extradition.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. Again, we fought a couple of wars with those guys, so that wouldn't happen.
yeah, but it might happen here, especially if Harrison Walls,
Yep.
get in the Oval Office, because Tim Walz said, quote, "There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation." And who determines what's
defined by him.
misinformation?
Yeah, as defined by him. That just is scary. It should scare people in both parties, because I hate to tell you, they're not just going to come for conservatives. They're going to come for anybody that disagrees with them, as that kind of thought process continues.
Stephen Bucci served America for 3 decades as Army Special Forces officer, top Pentagon official, now a visiting fellow at the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for Foreign Policy Studies. Stephen Bucci, thanks for joining us as always.
Thank you for having me. Take care.
Thanks. You too. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Hear about the big stories of the day, then talk about them right here on Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
As a business owner, do you have a strategy for exiting your business? Most business owners don't. Studies done by the Exit Planning Institute show 75% of business owners who don't have an exit plan are dissatisfied with their exit, and 80% of businesses put to market never sell. Total Clarity Wealth Management understands the hesitation to discuss exiting. Will customers leave? Will competitors take advantage? Will key employees leave? That's why they offer confidential